5 ways to stay calm in arguments. Control your emotions. The war within. Arguments are the breeding ground for chaos, testing not only the strength of our convictions, but also the fortitude of our spirit. In the heat of verbal combat, emotions threaten to consume us. Anger blinds us, pride ensnares us, and our ego whispers poisonous suggestions. Yet in these moments of turmoil lies the opportunity to emerge victorious, not over another, but over ourselves. Stoicism teaches us that the most formidable opponent is not the person standing before us, but the tempest within. If we can master our emotions, we hold the keys to inner peace, regardless of external storms. Together, let us explore 5 timeless strategies rooted in Stoic philosophy to stay calm in arguments and transcend the destructive pull of raw emotion. Embrace the pause. Delay is the antidote to rage. In the heat of an argument, emotions flare like a sudden wildfire, threatening to consume reason and ignite destructive words or actions. It's in these moments that Marcus Aurelius's wisdom, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." Realize this and you will find strength. Becomes our lifeline. To pause means more than simply stopping. It means reclaiming control over our mind that is being pulled toward chaos. The power of the first breath. Imagine this. Someone hurls a sharp insult at you, and your first instinct is to lash back. This is the reflex of an untrained mind, one enslaved by impulse. But now, envision this scenario again. Instead of snapping, you inhale deeply. That single breath does not erase the insult, but it creates a barrier, a momentary gap where you can choose your response rather than letting your emotions choose it for you. The art of stepping back. The pause also allows us to step back and see the argument from a broader perspective. Seneca advised, "The greatest remedy for anger is delay." Why? Because delay cools the flames of emotional intensity. When we pause, we can evaluate the situation more objectively. Is this argument worth engaging in? Is my response likely to improve the situation or escalate it? Am I arguing for truth or simply to defend my pride? By stepping back, we move from reacting to reflecting. The pause is not a retreat, but a tactical advantage. A moment to prepare a response, grounded in reason and integrity. What happens in the pause? During that pause, your brain transitions from its emotional reactive state, dominated by the amygdala, to a more rational state where the prefrontal cortex can engage. This is where you regain clarity. The Stoics understood this even before modern neuroscience confirmed it. Pausing interrupts the surge of emotions, giving reason a chance to intervene. Practical application: to cultivate the power of the pause in your own life. Train yourself in calm moments. When you're not in an argument, practice pausing before responding in any situation. Emails, casual conversations, or even decisions. Anchor your pause to a ritual. For example, when you feel anger rising, take 3 deep breaths or count silently to 5. Visualize the outcome. Ask yourself, if I respond immediately, will I regret my words later? By imagining potential consequences, you strengthen your resolve to pause. The warrior's mindset. Picture yourself as a warrior preparing for battle. A rash swing of the sword leaves you open to counterattack, while a calculated pause allows you to anticipate your opponent's move and respond with precision. Arguments are no different. When you pause, you become the calm within the storm, unshaken by the winds of anger around you. The act of pausing transforms you from a prisoner of emotion into its master. By delaying your response, you create space for wisdom to emerge, ensuring that your actions reflect strength rather than weakness. The pause is not a moment of inaction. It is the most profound act of control. Detach from ego. Insults only hurt when we let them land. Arguments often strike at the heart of our ego, that fragile construct we build around our sense of self. The Stoics understood that it is not the insult itself that causes us pain, but our decision to internalize it. Epictetus said it best, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." When we detach from our ego, we transform insults into empty words, powerless to disturb our inner peace. The nature of insults. Imagine someone calls you a fool. The word hangs in the air, but does it have inherent power? Not at all. Its sting lies in your willingness to believe it, or your need to prove it wrong. Ego reacts by saying, "How dare they? I need to defend myself." But a Stoic knows that true strength lies in indifference to others' opinions. When you detach from ego, insults become no more than wind passing through the trees, heard but not held. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Reject your sense of injury, and the injury itself disappears. It is not the insult that wounds us, but our agreement to let it." Detaching from ego allows us to break this agreement. The illusion of ego. Ego thrives on the false belief that our worth is tied to external validation. It clings to a fragile image of perfection and crumbles at the slightest crack. But the Stoics remind us that our value is intrinsic, not dictated by the praise or criticism of others. Seneca advised, "What does it matter by what route you enter the truth? You are who you are." When someone insults us, they aim at this illusion of ego, not at our true selves. By detaching, we see insults for what they truly are, reflections of the other person's state of mind, not ours. Their words reveal their frustrations, insecurities, or misunderstandings, not any objective truth about us. Transforming the insult. Detaching from ego does not mean passivity or allowing disrespect. It means recognizing that we don't need to engage emotionally with every attack. When someone hurls an insult, pause and reflect. Ask yourself, does this insult reflect who I truly am, or is it their misunderstanding? Empathize with the insulter. Consider what might have provoked their words. Often, insults stem from their pain, fear, or confusion. This doesn't justify their behavior, but helps you detach emotionally. Reframe the insult. If someone calls you weak, ask yourself, am I truly weak? If yes, accept it and grow. If not, why should it bother you? Insults are opportunities for self-assessment or dismissal. As Epictetus taught, when someone criticizes you, consider whether they might be correct. If so, learn from it. If not, their words are irrelevant. The mirror of insults. A practical exercise is to imagine insults as reflections in a mirror. When someone calls you a name, they are holding up their mirror. If you see truth in the reflection, use it as a tool for growth. If you do not, walk away. Their mirror does not define you. This mindset robs insults of their sting. You are no longer a slave to others' perceptions, but a master of your inner domain. Detachment creates an invisible armor, shielding you from the emotional blows that once pierced so deeply. What happens when we detach? By detaching from ego, we achieve three profound transformations. Freedom from reaction. We are no longer puppets controlled by others' words. Inner strength. Insults test our fortitude, and by not reacting, we prove our strength. Peace of mind. Without the need to defend or retaliate, we find tranquility amidst conflict. The warrior's path. Picture a mountain, unyielding against the storm. Insults may rain upon it, winds may batter its slopes, but the mountain remains unmoved. This is the essence of detachment. By rising above the ego, we become like the mountain, grounded in our own worth, untouched by the fleeting storms of others' words. Detaching from ego is not easy, but it is the path to liberation. Together, let us strive to meet every insult with calm indifference, knowing that we control our worth, not the judgments of others. For in mastering our ego, we master ourselves. Focus on what you can control. The outcome is not yours to claim. In an argument, emotions often surge because we become obsessed with winning, proving a point, changing the other person's mind, or ensuring that justice is served. Yet, as the Stoics teach, this obsession is misplaced. Epictetus reminds us, some things are up to us, and some things are not. To focus on what we can control is to reclaim our peace, while chasing what is beyond our power only invites frustration and despair. Understanding control. Imagine you're debating a critical issue with a friend. You present your argument with clarity and logic, but they remain unconvinced. Frustration wells up. Why can't they see my point? This frustration stems from an illusion, the belief that you can control their perspective. But can you? No. What is within your control is how you present your case, not whether they accept it. The Stoics divided life into two spheres. What we control, our thoughts, actions, and responses. What we do not control, others' opinions, behaviors, and external events. When we focus on what lies outside our control, we surrender our emotional stability to forces we cannot govern, but by narrowing our focus to our sphere of influence, we regain composure and clarity. Why we cling to outcomes. Humans are wired to seek results. We argue not just to express ourselves, but to shape the world around us, to feel heard, validated, or victorious. But this attachment to outcomes is a double-edged sword. Marcus Aurelius warned, "The beauty of focusing on the process. To let go of the outcome is not to abandon effort, it is to commit fully to the process while accepting that the final result is beyond your control." In an argument, this means speak with integrity, ensure your words are true, clear, and respectful. Listen deeply, truly hear the other person's perspective without letting your ego dominate. Respond wisely. Choose your tone and actions based on reason, not emotion. By doing so, you act in alignment with your values. Whether the other person agrees or not becomes secondary. As Seneca said, "The wise man is content with his own approval." freeing yourself from external validation. When you let go of outcomes, you free yourself from the burden of external validation. Arguments often spiral because both sides demand recognition of their rightness. But when you no longer need others to validate your perspective, you can engage without defensiveness or desperation. This detachment fosters calm, clarity, and respect. Practical application. To focus on what you can control in arguments, reframe your goal. Instead of aiming to win, aim to express yourself authentically and understand the other person's perspective. Set boundaries for effort. Recognize when your input is no longer productive and step back rather than pushing endlessly for a result. Practice mental rehearsal. Before engaging in potentially heated discussions, visualize yourself maintaining calm regardless of the other person's reaction. For example, if a colleague dismisses your ideas, remind yourself, I cannot control their opinion, but I can control how I present my thoughts and handle their response. This mindset shifts your focus from frustration to empowerment. The freedom of surrendering the outcome. Think of an archer releasing an arrow. The archer can control the strength of the draw, the aim, and the steadiness of their hands. But once the arrow leaves the bow, the wind, distance, and target's movement determine the result. The Stoics likened life to this process. Focus on the draw, not the bullseye. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Do not let the future disturb you. You will meet it, if you must, with the same weapons of reason which today arm you against the present." In arguments, this means we can prepare, act, and respond wisely, but we must leave the result to unfold as it will. The warrior's perspective. Picture yourself as a calm warrior on a battlefield. You swing your sword with precision, not because you demand victory, but because it is the honorable act. Whether the battle is won or lost, your integrity remains intact. Similarly, in arguments, focusing on your actions, not the outcome, turns every engagement into a win for your inner peace. When we stop clinging to outcomes, we embrace freedom. Together, let us strive to master the only thing we truly control, ourselves. For in mastering our actions, we find the strength to face any argument with grace and fortitude. 4. Harness empathy. Understand before you judge. At the heart of every argument lies a clash of perspectives. We often rush to defend our own stance, dismissing the other person's viewpoint as misguided or wrong. But the Stoics, masters of emotional clarity, taught that true wisdom begins with understanding others. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Whenever someone has done wrong by you, immediately consider what notion of good or evil they have, for if you share their view, you will forgive at once." To harness empathy is to see the world through another's eyes, softening conflict and building bridges. The nature of empathy. Empathy is not about agreeing with the other person or surrendering your principles. It is about stepping outside your own mind to understand theirs. This act diffuses hostility and invites dialogue rather than division. Seneca counseled, "We are more often frightened than hurt, and we suffer more from imagination than from reality." Similarly, arguments are often fueled by assumptions rather than truths. When you empathize, you replace judgment with curiosity. You ask yourself, why do they see the situation this way? What emotions or experiences might be driving their response? Could there be a kernel of truth in their perspective? The ego's resistance to empathy. Ego thrives in arguments, clinging to the belief that we are right and they are wrong. It resists empathy because empathy feels like surrender. But this is an illusion. Empathy does not weaken our position, it strengthens it. By understanding others, we gain insight into their motivations and can respond with wisdom rather than impulsivity. As Epictetus said, if someone behaves poorly toward you, remember that they act on the basis of what seems right to them. This recognition allows us to view their actions with compassion rather than hostility, freeing us from the emotional traps of anger and resentment. How empathy transforms arguments. Imagine two flames meeting. An argument can feel like a battle of fires, each side trying to outburn the other. But empathy is like water. It doesn't fan the flames, it cools them. When you approach a heated discussion with a desire to understand rather than to dominate, the entire dynamic shifts. Empathy allows you to diffuse tension. By acknowledging the other person's feelings or concerns, you demonstrate respect, which often softens their defensiveness. Identify common ground. Many arguments are born from misunderstanding rather than true disagreement. Empathy helps you uncover shared values or goals. Respond wisely. Understanding their perspective allows you to tailor your response, making it more effective and less confrontational. Practical empathy in action. Here's how you can harness empathy during an argument. Pause and observe. Before reacting, take a moment to notice the other person's body language, tone, and choice of words. What emotions do these reveal? Ask clarifying questions. Instead of assuming their intent, seek to understand. For example, what makes you feel this way? Or, can you help me understand your perspective better? Validate their emotions. You don't need to agree with their argument to acknowledge their feelings. A simple, "I see why you'd feel that way," can create a sense of connection. For example, if someone accuses you of being unfair, resist the urge to defend yourself immediately. Instead, say, "I didn't realize you felt that way. Can you explain what made you feel it was unfair?" This response demonstrates care and opens the door to productive conversation. Empathy as a shield, not a weakness. Many fear that empathy makes them vulnerable, but in truth, it is a shield against destructive emotions. When you understand someone's anger or frustration, it becomes less threatening. You see it as a reflection of their struggles, not an attack on your character. Marcus Aurelius observed, "When you wake up in the morning, tell yourself, the people I deal with today will be meddling, ungrateful, arrogant, dishonest, jealous, and surly. They are like this because they cannot tell good from evil." This is not cynicism, it is preparation. By expecting imperfection in others, we are less disturbed by it. Empathy helps us meet their flaws with patience rather than judgment. And empathy beyond the moment. Empathy is not just a tool for resolving arguments, it is a path to deeper connection. When we approach others with understanding, we break down barriers and build trust. Even if the argument remains unresolved, the act of seeking to understand leaves both parties feeling respected. As Seneca said, "Wherever there is a human being, there is an opportunity for kindness." Every argument, is an opportunity to practice this kindness, not as weakness, but as strength born of inner stability. The quiet power of empathy. Picture a ship navigating stormy seas. The waves crash and the winds howl, yet the captain remains calm because they understand the nature of the storm. Similarly, in an argument, empathy allows us to navigate emotional tempests without being swept away. Together, let us strive to harness empathy, not to win arguments, but to master ourselves. For when we understand before we judge, we find clarity, calm, and a profound strength that no conflict can shake. Remember impermanence. This moment too shall pass. In the heat of an argument, emotions flare, and it feels as though the moment consumes us entirely. Anger, frustration, or even sadness can overwhelm our reasoning, pulling us into a spiral of impulsive reactions. But the wisdom of Stoicism teaches us to pause and remember, everything is transient. This conflict, this moment, and even this feeling will pass, just as countless others have before. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Time is like a river, made up of the events which happen, and a violent stream, for as soon as a thing has been seen, it is carried away, and another comes in its place." To remember impermanence is to reclaim our calm in the face of chaos, knowing that no storm lasts forever. Why we cling to the present moment. In arguments, we become trapped in the immediacy of our emotions. Our focus narrows to the insult just uttered, or the stubbornness of the other person. The intensity of the moment tricks us into believing it is permanent, that the discomfort will linger endlessly unless we win or resolve the conflict. But this is an illusion. As Epictetus reminds us, it is not events that disturb us, but our judgment about them. When we accept that this moment, like all moments, is fleeting, we gain perspective. We realize that our immediate feelings are not eternal truths, but temporary waves that will soon recede. The power of a permanence in conflict. Emotions lose their grip. By acknowledging that our anger or frustration will pass, we weaken its power over us. Instead of reacting impulsively, we can choose to respond thoughtfully. Perspective expands. When we step back from the heat of the moment, we see the argument as a small episode in the grand flow of life. What feels monumental now may be insignificant tomorrow. Patience becomes natural. Impermanence teaches us to endure discomfort without overreacting. Just as we wouldn't panic during a passing storm, we can remain composed in the midst of a disagreement. Practical application of impermanence. To practice impermanence during an argument, consider these steps. Breathe and observe. When tension rises, take a deep breath and remind yourself, this is temporary. Notice the emotion without identifying with it. Mentally fast forward. Ask yourself, will this matter in a week, a year? This mental exercise reduces the emotional weight of the moment. Anchor yourself in time. Reflect on past arguments. Recall how emotions that once felt overwhelming eventually faded. Use this as proof that the current conflict will also pass. For example, imagine arguing with a friend over a misunderstanding. In the moment, it feels like a betrayal. But if you pause and remember past disagreements that seemed equally intense, you'll recognize that this too is a temporary storm. The Stoic perspective on impermanence. The Stoics were deeply attuned to the transient nature of life. Seneca wrote, "Let us prepare our minds as if we'd come to the very end of life. Let us postpone nothing. Let us balance life's books each day." This reminder of life's brevity helps us prioritize what truly matters. In arguments, it shifts our focus from petty disputes to the relationships and values that endure. By remembering impermanence, we learn to let go of minor slights and avoid saying things we'll later regret. Arguments become opportunities to practice patience and perspective rather than occasions for hostility. The freedom of letting go. To accept impermanence is to release the need for control. When we resist the flow of time, clinging to our grievances or demanding immediate resolution, we create unnecessary suffering. But when we flow with time, trusting that all moments, good or bad, are fleeting, we discover a profound sense of freedom. Marcus Aurelius reflected, "Think of the life you have lived until now is over, and as a dead man, see what's left as a bonus, and live it according to nature." This perspective allows us to approach conflict with gratitude for the time we have, rather than resentment over the temporary discomfort it brings. A practice for daily life. In moments of calm, reflect on impermanence. Observe the small transitions around you, the fading light of sunset, the passing of seasons, or the withering of a flower. These natural cycles mirror the transience of our emotions and conflicts. The more we meditate on impermanence, the more it becomes second nature to us during moments of tension. A river that flows. Imagine yourself standing beside a river. The current rushes past, carrying debris, sticks, leaves, foam. Swiftly downstream, an argument is like a piece of debris floating by. You can grasp at it, letting it pull you into the water, or you can watch it drift away, knowing that it cannot linger forever. By remembering impermanence, we remain on the shore, grounded and unshaken. Together, let us practice this wisdom, finding strength in the flow of time. For every moment passes, but our capacity for self-retrieve and fortitude remains eternal. Before you go, I want you to pause for a moment and reflect. How would your life change if you could master your emotions in every argument? If this video has shown you a new way to approach conflict, one rooted in self-retreat, understanding, and fortitude, then don't keep it to yourself. Like this video, share it with others who might benefit from this timeless Stoic wisdom. Imagine the impact we could have if more people lived by these principles, remaining calm, composed, and wise, even in the heat of battle. We could create a world where arguments don't escalate into chaos, but instead foster growth and connection. Your like and share not only support this channel, but help spread these ideas further so that we all can become the best versions of ourselves. Together. If you want to learn more on how to stay calm, level-headed, and in control in every situation, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. The journey of Stoic mastery doesn't stop here.